The avoidant person's interpretation of silence evolves through distinct stages as their defensive assumptions gradually crumble under the weight of sustained absence. Their initial response stems from years of conditioning where withdrawal always eventually triggered pursuit, confirming their significance and maintaining their sense of control. However, as silence extends beyond their expected timeline, their beliefs shift from confident superiority to uncomfortable uncertainty to eventual panic. These changing interpretations reveal how their psychological framework depends on specific dynamics that silence systematically dismantles. Initial belief: they are relieved and validated. The avoidant person initially interprets silence as confirmation that they were correct to maintain distance and that the relationship's demands exceeded its value. They believe their former partner has finally accepted their need for space and stopped the suffocating pursuit that triggered their withdrawal. This silence feels like permission to return to their protected state of independence without guilt or obligation. They congratulate themselves for successfully establishing boundaries and feel vindicated in their belief that relationships require more emotional energy than they provide in return. They assume their former partner is processing the breakup as expected, going through predictable stages of grief before eventually reaching out when loneliness or nostalgia becomes unbearable. This belief allows them to relax their vigilance and enjoy freedom from relationship pressure while maintaining comfortable assumption that they remain significant in their former partner's emotional landscape. The silence confirms their narrative that they hold power through withdrawal and that others will always care more, need more, and pursue more than they reciprocate. Evolving belief: they begin questioning their significance. The avoidant person's confidence erodes as days stretch into weeks without any contact attempts or indirect signals of continued interest. They begin questioning whether they mattered as much as they assumed, whether the connection held the significance their ego suggested. This uncertainty creates uncomfortable cognitive dissonance as their belief in their own importance confronts evidence suggesting they may have become genuinely irrelevant to someone who once pursued them consistently. They start wondering whether their former partner has moved on completely, whether they were easily replaced or forgotten, and whether their withdrawal succeeded in making them forgettable rather than desirable. These thoughts contradict their narrative of emotional superiority and force recognition that silence might indicate genuine indifference rather than strategic distance or painful processing. They begin interpreting the absence as possible evidence that their impact was insufficient to generate lasting emotional response of any kind. Growing belief: they are being replaced or forgotten. The avoidant person becomes increasingly convinced that silence indicates their former partner has redirected emotional investment toward new connections and opportunities. They begin imagining scenarios where they have been replaced by someone more emotionally available, where their former partner is thriving without them, where their absence created space for happiness rather than devastation. This belief triggers unexpected jealousy and competitive instincts they typically inspire in others rather than experience themselves. They start checking for evidence of new romantic interests, analyzing activities and interactions for signs they have lost their position in their former partner's life entirely. The silence transforms from comfortable validation of their independence into threatening suggestion that they are no longer relevant, wanted, or remembered. This growing belief destabilizes their sense of control as they recognize that withdrawal only holds power when someone cares enough to feel its impact. Final belief: they made an irreversible mistake. The avoidant person eventually confronts the devastating belief that silence represents permanent closure rather than temporary distance, that they pushed away someone genuinely valuable who has now genuinely departed.